100 boots on the ground right now from the California National Guard. About 1,054 of those are supporting law enforcement agencies across this area to ensure that law enforcement officers can do that work, ensure that they can do counter-looting operations, ensure that they can continue to do law enforcement operations while we man traffic control points and checkpoints across the area. On the firefighting front, we have 529 service members currently supporting CAL FIRE. 355 of those are currently employed with CAL FIRE. That's from our task force Rattlesnake. And 174 are continuing their training down at Camp Roberts, and they'll be available to CAL FIRE on the 16th of this month. On the aviation side, we continue to man 11 Type 1 bucket-equipped UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters. And on top of that, we maintain 5 today, 8 tomorrow. 5 today, modular airborne firefighting system equipped C-130s from the California Air National Guard and from Air National Guards across the country. It's important to note every MAFS-equipped aircraft in the United States is currently in California supporting this emergency. Can't say enough about our DoD, Department of Defense partners. They've been extraordinarily helpful and supportive throughout this. And I'd like to just reach out one time to the sheriff and let him know that if he needs additional folks, we'll have them there tonight. Cheers.
Next up, Palisades Fire Incident Commander, Chief Hudson.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Jim Hudson on behalf of the Unified Incident Commanders for the Palisades incident. Provide you a brief overview of what has occurred and our actions moving forward as we stand here this afternoon. Obviously, since the ignition of this fire Tuesday morning, it's been a very dynamic situation. Resources were surged in, but anybody that was here in the first few hours or the first 24 hours will tell you that wind event was something that they've probably not experienced before, and the firefight that occurred was extraordinary. It's been, when I said it's been dynamic, along with perimeter control, we have been fighting, or were fighting, and continue to monitor the situation of new structural ignitions in the area. So our priorities will continue to be life and safety, property, and perimeter control. We have been pushing that message forward, and how we're able to accomplish that is, as the weather shifts, we are moving resources around this fire as the best of our ability and prioritizing where those resources need to go. Crews have been working and will continue to work 24 hours a day. Many of them have been working over 36 and 48 hours at times, and our aircraft has been working 24 hours a day when the weather permits. We did have some periods where the wind was too strong, but we've been had good success the past few days. It's important to note that even though if you look at the acreage growth on this fire, the majority of it was ahead of Friday morning. But we have seen growth with the wind shifts in the last 2 days. And as we move forward, I want everybody to know that those flare-ups that did occur in the last couple days, we are prepared for those. Everything that has occurred has been within our primary plan, and if necessary, we'll always fall back to alternate or contingency plans. So it does look very impressive on the news. We are able to surge firefighters into those areas rapidly, and we do have a plan. We are planning 2-3 ridges away. We are planning well ahead of any communities that lie in the fire's path that could potentially be impacted, and that is part of our thought process. So I assure you that anything that could possibly occur that we are not considering and we have a plan for. So as we move forward, I just wanted to leave you with that and assure you that you have full dedication. Our Unified Incident Commanders, represented by all the agencies on this stage, are aligned in our priorities objectives, and we'll continue to provide you updates daily. Thank you.
Next up, Los Angeles County Supervisor Horvath.
Good afternoon. At this stage of the event, I have 2 messages. First, one of gratitude. The people on the front lines fighting this fire are nothing short of excellent. They are not here by choice. They are here by calling. They are strong, they are sophisticated, and they will get this job done. We are grateful to them and to their families who are sacrificing time with their loved ones in order to ensure our safety. We owe them a debt of gratitude. Second is vigilance. We are not out of danger yet. As you just saw, we are entering yet another red flag event through the end of day Wednesday. It is essential that every resident in an evacuation zone evacuates immediately. And if you are in an evacuation warning zone, be prepared to evacuate. The best thing that we can do to support those on the front lines is to be prepared, to move swiftly, and to listen to instruction. Those who are on the front lines are giving it their all. The thing that will determine their success is whether we are partners or whether we are in their way. It is essential that we follow instructions to get this job done. Thank you once again, all who are fighting this fire. We are grateful to you.
Next up, City of Los Angeles, Councilmember Park.
Good afternoon. I am, of course, joining us this afternoon with a heavy heart, and I'm profoundly saddened by the unimaginable devastation that has swept across Los Angeles. Obviously, raging fires have claimed more than a dozen lives, destroyed thousands of homes and beloved businesses, and scorched more than 60 square miles. Thousands of families have been displaced, their lives turned upside down in an instant. The Palisades fire alone, the most destructive fire in our city's history, has engulfed over 23,600 acres since it erupted on Tuesday. Even now, it's only about 11% contained. The destruction is staggering, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble and ash. Yesterday, I was with Chief Crowley on the front lines in Mandeville Canyon as our firefighters strategically pre-positioned for that fire. Thanks to their heroic efforts throughout the night, Mandeville Canyon has been spared so far. These brave men and women from the LAFD and supporting departments from all over California and beyond deserve our deepest gratitude. Currently, more than 150,000 people in Los Angeles County are under evacuation orders, and we continue to receive new arrivals at our 9 emergency shelters. Curfews remain in place for Palisades and Brentwood, a measure that is necessary to ensure public safety, as high winds are expected to pick up again tomorrow, which could potentially fan the flames and lead to further spread. This fire remains active, and as others have said, this situation is far from over. Pacific Palisades still faces dangerous conditions, including downed power lines, broken gas and water pipes, and now slide conditions because of water activity. Today, our LAPD had to suspend operations, escorting residents back into evacuation zones to receive essential items. But this decision was made because of the anticipated wind conditions and the need for escorts for our utility personnel, who we have to get into the area so they can stabilize the conditions on the ground and make it safe for us to have those discussions about bringing folks back in at some point in the future. We know it will be at least until Wednesday, until the wind conditions abate. These are hard decisions, and I know that many of my constituents are disappointed and frustrated, but safety must remain our top priority. Another important piece of information that I want to share is that effective tomorrow, January 13th, parcel and postal pickup for Palisades residents will be available at Rancho Park Post Office, located at 11270 Exposition Boulevard in West LA. And to my constituents here in the Pacific Palisades in particular, who have lost so much, I see your pain and I feel your heartbreak. And I want to assure you that we are going to do everything in our power to ensure that you have the resources you need to rebuild your community and your lives. We can't replace what has been lost, but I am going to fight like hell to help you recover and move forward. And to our fearless firefighters and law enforcement and emergency personnel, including the men and women of the National Guard, your courage and determination inspire us all. To the countless crews from around California, across the US, and even Canada and Mexico, thank you for standing with us in this time of need. Once these fires are contained, and they will be, we're going to hold community meetings to ensure that residents have the answers they need and a voice in the path forward. Together, we're going to rebuild, and together, we are going to ensure that no community in Los Angeles has to endure this devastation again. Also, to President Biden, Governor Newsom, and all of our partners in leadership, thank you for your commitment to seeing us through this disaster. In the weeks and months and days to come, we are going to need more than commitment. We're going to need action. I'm determined to fight for the resources our community needs and deserves, and I know that we are going to rise from this tragedy stronger, more resilient, and more united than ever. Thank you. Stay safe and stay strong.
Thank you very much. That concludes our presentation portion. We'd now like to open it up to questions. If you do have a question, if you could just throw your hand up. My partner, Captain Scott, has a mic. He'll bring it to you. Ask your question. We'll find the best person to answer it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Chase Beach, Spectrum News. My first question is, I think it was Chief Maroney who said that all of LA County needs to be on standby over the next few days as this new wind event comes through. I mean, can you clarify that? I mean, are you saying that everyone across, or I can't remember if you said city or county, but everyone needs to have a go bag ready? I mean, obviously people are concerned.
Yeah, I think I said that anybody in LA County that's going to be under the red flag conditions needs to be ready and prepared to evacuate. It puts the entire region at risk, and although wildland brush fires are not normal for January, we all have to look at the situation that we're currently in. So for me, I speak on behalf for all the residents that are in the LA County areas, those 59 cities and all of the unincorporated areas.
Just be watching carefully, be ready to go.
Yeah, make sure that you haven't silenced your emergency alerts on your telephones. Make sure that you have your own individualized wildfire action program. Make sure that you have your own individualized wildfire action plan. Go to www.fire.lacounty.gov/RSG, ready, set, go, and you can prepare. Thank you.
Thanks. Barry Johnson, KCAL News. Can you clarify the concept of curfew? Because don't we effectively have a 24-hour curfew right now, at least until Thursday, as you were saying, because civilians cannot go into areas now at all that are under mandatory evacuation?
So in regards to curfew, in the impacted areas, that does go from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. There are other areas that are under evacuation order, which means that nobody who is unauthorized should be in those areas. They are covered by different portions of the penal code. Technically speaking, if you are there during the day and you have no business there and you are confronted by law enforcement, and we've been doing a great job at it, you can be subject to arrest under a misdemeanor. I don't know of any cases where we've done that, but that is a tool in the toolbox. Bottom line is, you don't live there, you don't belong there, stay away from there. There's no reason for you to be there to not only impact the residents that have been victimized, but more importantly, the first responders who need to go in and out of there, and other utility folks that are working there to repair a lot of the things like electricity, gas, and water, and internet that are down.
Matthew Bigler, KNX.
Hi, thank you. This is probably a question for, I'll step back a little bit to avoid feedback. For some of the electeds, we've been getting questions from LA County residents who have heeded the evacuation orders. They've left their homes, and now they're incurring lots of expenses, food, clothing, especially shelter. Can they expect to be compensated by insurance companies, by the government? What is being put forth to help those folks who are now paying a lot of money because they can't go back home?
You know, I'll address the repopulation because I said it at the end of my remarks. They can't go home simply because it's not safe. We've all spoke up here about the evacuation order areas and the evacuation warning areas. The minute it's safe, it's our collective priority, whether you're elected or appointed, to be able to get residents back in their home just as quickly as possible. That conversation is not going to occur until the end of the predicted red flag event that's on its way. The last thing we want is for Sheriff Luna or the police chief, McDonald, to be reporting on more fatalities. Homes and communities can be rebuilt, but we cannot allow any other fire fatalities. That would be terrible. So thank you for your understanding. It is our priority, and we're going to do the best that the very best that we can. Thank you.
I'm Jackie Irwin, the assembly member that represents this general area, the 42nd Assembly District. We've had 5 fires here in the last 6 weeks or so, so we are quite familiar with what the residents are facing. The first thing that we would say insurance-wise is you have to get in touch with your insurance company. You have to put together lists of what your costs are, and on our website, our assembly website, we have a list of everything you need to do and some tips for insurance companies. Secondly, residents have the ability to apply for FEMA funding. And again, there's a process you go through. The website has been pretty bogged down, but I would say contact us in our office. We will do everything we can to help you connect with FEMA. And within the next week, we are going to start working with our other partners, the Tracy Park and Lindsay Horvath's office. And I think right now at the libraries, we're going to be having resource centers that residents can go to. The last thing, not exactly along the lines of what you're talking about, but what we're already hearing is about price gouging. And we urge anybody that suspects price gouging as they're trying to rent housing to contact the Attorney General's office. This is absolutely unacceptable and illegal to do in the face of this horrible tragedy. So any of our residents that have questions, please contact our office. Unfortunately, our Pacific Palisades office burned down. Our district office in Thousand Oaks, because of the fires, doesn't have phone service right now, so we urge you to contact our Capitol office or look at our website, and you can just do a Google search for that.
Next question is in reference to fire cause investigation. Morgan Windsor, ABC News National.
Yeah, I was hoping someone could expand on the status of the ongoing investigation, and specifically, I'm wondering, has the LAFD considered the New Year's Eve fire in Palisades in the investigation, the potential that this was a rekindling? And once that fire was contained, did the LAFD ever revisit the scene? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I can't speak for LAFD, but I can speak into general practice, and we have a task force where LAFD, LA County Fire, LAPD, LASD, ATF, and as needed FBI are all working together in task force configuration to try and find source and origin of this fire and all of the fires we've experienced. So as they go through this, we won't speak as to where the investigation is or what the findings are at this point, but we will, once it's complete, you'll be made aware of what we know. So thank you for your patience on that.
And I'll just briefly talk about your question from a previous fire that had occurred 7 days prior. We do not have any information that there's any connections, but that's the good thing when we bring in an outside resource that is going to look into every single detail to make sure that the fire service knows, the community knows exactly where and how and when all of this occurred, and that's across the region in regard to all the other fires that occurred even outside of the Palisades. Thank you.
Next question is in reference to our air support. Jeremy Lee, NBC Universal.
Hi. What contingencies are there if air support has to be suspended, and how are you preparing for this wind event in a different way than earlier last week?
Yeah, so with aircraft being able to fly, that can be weather dependent. Obviously, it has to be safe and it has to be effective. They are, as I spoke earlier about contingency lines, we, with the aircraft, obviously the rotor wing are dropping on hotspots and extinguishing fire with our fixed wing that drop fire retardant, as well as our helicopters that we have set up a mobile retardant base in which the helicopters actually drop retardant as well. We are pre-treating with fire retardant well ahead of the fire, and if they get grounded, we have actually built ourselves a little bit of barrier in time for crews to get in there and make and get on the line, go direct as possible, and extinguish the fire. So it's important to remember, though the retardant might not extinguish it, it is a barrier. It does provide us some time. So it really comes to that planning piece, like I talked about earlier, with our primary plans and our backup plans. So.
That concludes the questions from reporters.
That concludes this briefing. We'd like to remind folks that we are holding a virtual community meeting every night at 6:30 p.m. Thanks to everybody who joined us last night in person. We're going to have virtual tonight and tomorrow, so please jump online, LAFD, LA County Fire, or CalFire at fire.ca.gov, and go to the Palisades Fire page, and you'll see the link there. Thank you.